Well, thanks for showing up, everybody. I really appreciate it on this Friday, rainy Friday here in North Carolina. I'm not sure what it's like where you are, probably some snow in some parts of the country and beautiful weather in the other parts of the country, but hopefully you are going to have a great weekend. My name is Matt Johnson. I do all of our training and webinars and videos here at SFREP. And we're going to be doing a webinar today on Appraise-It Pro. So this is kind of an introductory primer to Appraise-It Pro. So if you've never used Appraise-It Pro, you've been curious about it, this is what this webinar is going to be. Now, starting in about a couple weeks, we're going to start doing some more advanced webinars on Appraise-It Pro, but these are kind of an introduction to kind of show you all there is that Appraise-It Pro has to offer. And we'll go over some of the more common questions, and then you all can ask questions in the chat as well. Now, if you are watching this video later, because we do record these videos, and you come up with a question, you're welcome to just simply email us training@sfrep.com. That's training@sfrep.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on Appraise-It Pro. Now, we also have our tech support, and they can help you with tech issues. And they're just simply tech@sfrep.com or support@sfrep.com. They both go to the same place, and they can also help you out. Now, one thing I want everyone to know is when I'm showing you Appraise-It Pro today, you can get it right now. It is in version 2. It is completely ready to go, ready for prime time. It's been released for about a year. You are welcome to try it out. There is no additional charge if you're already on the Appraise-It Pro or the Appraise-It subscription plan. All you have to do is call our sales department. That's 800-523-0872. And I'll put that in the chat here just in case. So 800-523-0872. I think everybody already knows that number. Just give them a call. They can add it to your account, and then they can, if you want, get you in touch with one of our techs who can then guide you through the setup process. If you are technically inclined and you want to go ahead and do it yourself, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started here, and I am going to go ahead and show my screen so that you can see it. And we'll go ahead and we will get Appraise-It Pro opened up. Now, Appraise-It Pro is our new flagship product. The great thing about it is brand new. It was written in Microsoft's most recent and advanced development environment. So what that means is that it's built specifically for Windows 10. Now, it will run on Windows 8, and it will run on Windows 7 if you have the latest service pack, but do be advised that in the next about 5 months or so, we're going to be ending support for Windows 7. Now, that doesn't mean that in 5 months it won't work on Windows 7, but just keep in mind that because Microsoft no longer supports Windows 7, it's no longer getting security updates, we are also going to stop supporting Windows 7, but we're giving you about a 6 to 5, it was 6 months, now it's about a 5-month leeway. So keep that in mind. If you are running Windows 7, you're going to want to go ahead and get upgraded to Windows 10 or purchase a new computer that has Windows 10 on it. Appraise-It Pro is also the only software out there in the industry that is 64-bit. Now, what that may mean, most of people from my generation X will remember 64-bit in relation to game consoles. But what that means specifically with a PC is that if you have a PC and you're watching this right now, you're on a 64-bit computer more than likely. And what that means is that if you have more than 3.5 gigabytes of memory on your computer, other software can only address that first 3.5 gigabytes of memory or so. Appraise-It Pro can utilize as much memory as you have. So if a lot of these new systems have 12, 16, 32 gigs of memory on them, we can address that space, which means we can load more of the program into memory instead of having to swap it out to the hard drive. And that's just going to make things run a lot faster, run a lot more smoothly, okay? Now, when you take a look at Appraise-It Pro, you may notice that it looks suspiciously a lot like Office. That is intentional. We're using Microsoft's design language. So if you have been using Office, Microsoft Office, then you will feel pretty at home with Appraise-It Pro. When you start Appraise-It Pro, you will be in this area that we call the backstage. Now, when you first start, you'll be on the welcome screen. It'll say welcome to Appraise-It Pro, and then it just gives you some information about what's going on with Appraise-It Pro, what's going on at SFREP, just to keep you in the loop. This is going to be less of a newsletter and promotional item, and more so just kind of letting you know important information that we want to get out to you. And this will automatically update through the internet, so you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't change like only when you install a new version of Appraise-It. So when you get into Appraise-It Pro, you'll be in this area called the backstage. Now you can enter and exit the backstage by this little icon, this little arrow up here at the upper left. So when you click on it, it'll take you back to the main editing window. Right now I don't have a report open, but this is the main editing window of Appraise-It Pro. And then when you click on File again, you're back at the backstage. And you can think of the backstage as essentially the file menu as it was in Appraise-It Classic. Now under the backstage or the file menu, you have a couple of sections here. You have New, Open, Search, and Settings. Pretty straightforward, but we're going to go briefly over each of them. The New area, this is essentially the File New menu in Appraise-It Classic. This gives you all of the different forms that are available for you to start a report with. And we'll go over that a little bit more here in just a second. Under Open, this is where you can open existing reports, or you can open templates, or you can also open skeletons from Appraise-It Classic. And we'll go over that a little bit more here in a few minutes. Then we have Search. This is kind of like the file index in Appraise-It Classic, although it's much more robust and it's built on newer technology, and it does some really cool things. One of the cool things that it does, and this is a new computer, so I don't think I have anything really listed yet. Yeah. So I only have like one entry in here because this is a brand new computer and I've just been using it for demoing purposes at the moment. But you'll see, like if I did a search, I might find one result, but if I had multiple results, they'd be listed down here. And when I would click on it, you would also see a front view photo and a little summary over here about what that particular file is. And then you can just simply double click on it to open it up. You can also right click on a file from here. And if you already have a report open or a blank report open, you could import some or all of the forms from that report. You can also import some or all of the comparables. So you don't have to open up a full report to get comparables out of it. You could actually just import sections of an existing report. And then, of course, settings. I encourage people to come in here and look through settings. I'm not going to go through all of this because we're just doing kind of an overview today. We will have more in-depth webinars later, but I only want to take about 30 minutes of your time today, plus questions. But when you get Appraise-It Pro, come through here. If you don't feel comfortable messing with any of these settings, you could get one of our tech support people on the phone as well, and they can help you out with that. And real quickly, we got one question. Lori asks, will the comp data from Classic transferred over to Pro? Absolutely. Everything from Classic is going to transfer automatically to Pro when you first install it, with the exception of your skeletons. And I'll go over why that is in a minute, because there's a very specific reason why we don't do that. Okay, so what I want to do here is we're just going to do the basics here, and then I'll cover some ancillary stuff as well. So I'm going to come over here to New, and I'm just going to open up a regular old UAD 1004. Now, if I'm just opening up the default template, and think of a template like a skeleton, but I'll go over the difference here in a minute. But if I'm just opening up the default template, I could just simply double click right here. Otherwise, if I come over here to the template section, I can select the default template, or I can select one of my pre-done templates. Now, in Appraise-It Pro, a template is like a skeleton, but it's way easier to make and to edit. And it doesn't suffer from some of those weird idiosyncrasies that skeletons in Appraise-It Classic did. Essentially, if you're a cloner, what we call a cloner, you're opening up old reports and then editing them to make a new report. That's essentially what a template is. It's a blank report that you've made some changes to, so that you don't have to start from scratch from the beginning. And there's a key reason for that, because in Appraise-It Pro, and I'll show you this in a minute, you don't build your report at the end when you're ready to print. You don't put everything together at the end. You do it at the beginning and as you move along. So I'll show you that concept here in just a second. But what I want to do is I'm just going to open up a blank default template. So I'm just going to double click here. And then that is going to open up the actual report. So here's where we're going to go over kind of the layout of Appraise-It Pro. Now, along the top, you have what we call the menu ribbon bar. And the ribbon bar is very similar to other programs in Windows, like Paint or write or anything in Office. And so if I click on home, here's a selection. It's basically just icons and menu items kind of combined together. The concept is there's edit, view, services, et cetera, et cetera. Now over here on the left-hand side, and the right-hand side, we have panels. There are 4 default panels being shown. There's the report panel, which is essentially your table of contents and how you build and manage your report. Below that is the validator. The validator has 2 modes, which is real-time validation and a full validation. As you move along in the report, it's going to be doing a real-time validation. So that's things like, if you look up here, I already have NC in here, but let's say I said BC for British Columbia. That's not a US state, that is a Canadian province. When I tab out, it's going to give me a red mark there. So that's gonna make me, oh, I meant to say NC, not BC. And then now when I tab out of there, it's no longer red. It's going to do that as you go through the report. Now, it's not a comprehensive validation, it's just a kind of running as you go along validation. When you are ready to deliver your report, you'll want to run a full validation by clicking on the validate button right here. Then that will go through, check your math, check your spelling, all those kinds of things, your consistency, things like that. Over here on the right is the responses panel. We'll go over that a little bit more here in a minute, but you can see right here, I've created a response previously, and I'll create another one so you guys can see it here in a couple minutes. But this is essentially your F keys that were up at the top, or your common responses, and all of those will be converted over automatically from Appraise-It Classic. And then finally down here, we have the report panel. This is similar to the UAD helper that was in Appraise-It Classic. Right now, since I'm not in a UAD field, it is just giving me a key to what all these different color codes mean. But as soon as I go into a green field, which if you look on green here is a formatted field, then when I click in there, then it's going to give me a format helper. Now, unlike a lot of software out on the market right now, we actually let you type freely, even on a UAD report, into the field, because we've all been using UAD for almost a decade now. So we're very familiar with what the formatting is. So if you're one of those people that is really, you know, UAD by heart, you can just simply type this stuff out and then move along. You don't have to use the formatter, but the formatter is there to help you out. And if you do something, you type something out and you do get the formatting wrong, and it doesn't match UAD formatting, then when you exit that field, it will turn, well, in this case it won't, because this is not an actual UAD field, but it will turn red if you violate any type of like UAD formatting. Now, these panels, they are movable and you can remove them, you can tab them. I encourage you to play with them, because a lot of people get concerned when they start playing with them because they don't know how to get everything back the way it was. But what you can do is you can simply click on the title here and you can drag it out here. If you have multiple monitors, which I do, but I'm not showing my other monitor right now, but I could move this over to another monitor if I wanted. I can also do kind of things like come in here and I can put them in a tab down here at the bottom. So now I've got the report tab or the validator tab, kind of giving me extra space here. And if you get messed up and you're like, uh-oh, I don't know what I did there, so I can pull that out and see now I've like lost everything because now it's in a weird tab, and oh, how do I put that back? All you have to do is come to the view menu, select reset to default, hit yes, and it'll put everything back the way it was. So play around with that. Don't worry about, you know, if you're gonna make a mistake and you're gonna mess something up. You can also, and I encourage, like, you know, if you're never gonna use the format helper, you could just get rid of it, okay? And like you also have tabs here, like this one is for help and responses. So you can, you know, if you go into a field, it'll give you some help and some guidance for that particular field. But like I said, if you ever do anything wrong, just hit reset to default. The other thing you can do is you can come in here. If you have a large monitor, my monitors are only 1080p, but if I had a 4K monitor and I have really good eyes, which I don't, then I could select 2 pages. And so if I have a 4K monitor, I'd be able to see this a whole lot better. Or if I had moved my panels off of the screen at some point, I would have more space here and I'd be able to see 2, like you could have on one monitor, you could have, you know, 2 pages at the same time. And then on another monitor, you could have all of your panels. You can do whatever you want. It's very customizable. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to put it back the way it was. There we go. Oh, that's right. I have to do 1 page. There we go. So we'll come back over here to home. Now I'm going to go over the report panel because I actually did a full webinar on this. And if you want to see it, you can go to our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/SFREP. 2 days ago, I did a whole webinar just on building reports and creating templates, because it is, in my opinion, the one major thing that you really need to understand about Appraise-It Pro and its differences from Classic. And once you understand this, everything else will just click into place, okay? So let me show you what I mean here. I'm gonna open up Appraise-It Classic, pull it over here. And this is what we're all familiar with. And in Appraise-It Classic, what you would do is you would start filling out your report, and then you could, if you needed an addenda, you would come here to contents, come down here, look through this. It's mostly in alphabetical order, but you got to kind of search and find what you're looking for. And then when you find it, you can select it and then fill it out. And then it's not clear like how you close it. You actually click it here. So it's a little convoluted. It's hard to find things. And then when you were ready to deliver your report, you would deliver it either via Mismo XML or maybe through a portal or something, but you would have to build your report. So like I could clear all here and then start building the report in the order that I would want it. In Appraise-It Pro, the way that it works is that you build the report when you get started and as you go along. So I've opened up a default template here and it has some things added in it already. However, what you're going to want to do to keep your report tidy is if you don't plan on using a specific addenda, then either don't add it or get rid of it, okay? So let's say in this particular report, I'm not going to do a flood map. So what I want to do is I want to remove that flood map by selecting it by single clicking, coming up here to remove and then saying yes. You don't want anything in this report that is not filled out for delivery. Now, there may be one or two exceptions to that, mainly being something like the report profile here. Most people do not deliver the report profile, but you'll notice that it has a little lock icon next to it. That means that it cannot be removed from the report, okay? That's because the report profile is integral to the way that Appraise-It keeps track of all the data in the report. You can deliver it with it and print it or send it along, but by default, you're not gonna wanna do that. So what you'll do is at the end, when you're ready to create your report, you'll exclude it. But what you're going to want to do is, this is going to be essentially your print scheme. This is going to be the order that it will be delivered in. So if you want to move things around in here, you most certainly can. Let's say you don't want to see the report profile. You want to move it to the bottom. You can click and simply drag it down here to the bottom. Or I could put it up here after the sketch, or I could move the sketch after the location map, whatever you want to do. You're going to set your final order for the report here in the report panel. Now, there's other places where you can do this, and I'll show those to you. But my pro tip to everybody is set your order of your report here in the report panel. Now, let's say that, I've shown you how to remove an item from the report. Let's say you need to add an item to the report. Let's say we want some extra comp pages. So already I have comps 1 through 3 in the report. So there they are. Now, comps 4 through 6 are going to be added to your default skeletons as well. But let's say I want comps 7 through 9. All I have to do is hit this little green plus next to sales comps, and it will add comps 7 through 9 for me and the associated photo pages automatically. And I can double click on them. And then it'll open it up here in the editing window. And notice I have these tabs here. I can open up multiple pages and just flip between them if I want. Or if I've got multiple monitors and I want to be able to see the two things at one time, I can click, just like in a web browser, I can click that tab and I can drag it out. And then I can move it over to another monitor or move it over here to the side, whatever I want to do. And just like with a web browser, I can put them back in by simply just dragging them back over to the tab area and dropping them down. And then when I'm ready or I'm done looking at it, all I have to do is hit the little X, and it hasn't been removed. It's just not in the editing window anymore, just like a tab in a browser. Now, let's say I want to add something, though, that is not already listed here. Because I can't put a plus next to something that's not already there. Let's say I want to add one of the COVID addendums to this report, because that's what everybody's doing right now. So what I can do is I can come up here to add, and in the search box here, I can type in COVID, But I could also type in FHA, see all the FHA forms, but I'm going to do COVID. And here I've got the exterior only and the desktop. I want to add, excuse me, I want to add the desktop. So I'm going to select it and then simply drag it over here to the right. And I'm just going to put it after sales adjustments. And there it is. Or I'm going to put it down here at the bottom. I can also just double click on it. It'll just add it to the bottom for me anyway. Now I can also use these little up and down arrows here to move it through the report. I tend to like to drag and drop things, so I'm just going to use the click and drag. So when I'm done, I just click save and close, and now it's down here at the bottom for me. I can double click on it, and there's the COVID addendum, and it's multiple pages. So these are actual addenda, whether they be multiple pages or one page. So each page is open up on a separate tab or anything like that. Now, the two others that you may want to add to the report are going to be word processing pages. So I'm going to type in Word, and then we have word processing addendum, and I'm just going to double click so it adds it to the bottom, save and close. And now down here at the bottom, I have word processing addendum, just like you would in Appraise-It Classic, except in Appraise-It Pro, I can add 25 of these, 30, 50, it doesn't matter. You can put as many word processing addenda in there as you want, and each of them can have an unlimited number of pages. Same thing with PDF. And so I'm just going to show you the word processing addendum here real quick. It's just like it was in Appraise-It Classic. Here you basically have a almost full-featured version of Word, kind of like a word processor. You can add tables, photos, whatever you want to do in here. It can be multiple pages. So I'm going to close that. And it's kind of the same thing with PDFs. So I can go to Edit up here at the top. I can select PDF. And I'm just going to load this demo PDF here. And now here's my PDF addendum. This is just something, a multi-page PDF that is grabbed off the web, so ignore whatever it says. But you can see this is a multi-page PDF. Okay, so I'm going to close that. And then what I want to do is I want to come down here and I want to call it something so that I can easily identify it in the table of contents in the report panel here. So I'm going to select it, click on rename, and I'm going to call it GRE PDF. There we go. I'm going to add another PDF here. And this is something you could not do in Classic. I'm going to add another PDF. You can have an unlimited number of PDFs, and each PDF can have an unlimited number of pages. So I'm going to put demo 2 in there. And there's demo 2. Once again, it's just something I found on the web that was a multi-page PDF. There we go. And when I come down here, I'm going to call this demo PDF 2. And now I can open them back up and take a look at them. Same thing with word processing addendum. If I want to call this, I'm going to rename this, and I'm just going to call it, let's see, verbiage, whatever. And then now that's in there as well. And I can move those around if I want to as well. Let's see, Lori has a question. Can you print preview the extended comments page like you could way back in Classic? The answer to that is yes, although I can't. I think when you come to the, when you're actually trying to print, there is a way to do it, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it is. I'll have to look that up. So get back to me on that. Lori, if you want to send an email to training@safarip.com, and I'll double check and figure that and remember that. But yes, but the thing is you don't really have to do that, because if you come into the word processing addenda, or you come into the extended comments, if you select those, that is going to be what you see is what you get. But yes, you can do a print preview. I just, for whatever life of me, I can't remember how to do it right now, but get with me and I'll answer that for you. Okay, so also in the report area here, we also have some filters for the view. If you select this, you can, if you mouse over them, it'll tell you what they do. Show comparables and adjustments only. Then I click on it and I see everything. Or I can view comps only. I can do subject photos only. This is show maps and sketches only. You notice I'm clicking twice to go back the way it was. And then show documents only. And the reason I'm having to click is to go back the way it was is because if I do this and this, then it'll show me my comparable photo pages, my comparables and photos, and it will show me my documents. But then I can reset everything by just clicking on A to view all. Okay? So, but the key thing to remember here is set your order that you want the PDF or the printout or whatever, or the XML to be in here. And the one thing I can tell you that will save you a lot of heartache and time is keep your report tidy. Don't go adding things and then not filling them out. If you add a page, you end up not using it, remove it. That way, at a glance, you can always open up this report file and see exactly what was sent to your lender. Okay, now a couple of cool features that I want to show you that are these are the kind of the wow features that really get people interested in trying out Appraise-It Pro. One of my favorites is the magic shrinking text. So I've got Waynesville here. You see, as I keep typing, and this is in all fields, it will shrink the text to a certain point. It won't get too small, but it'll shrink the text to a certain point so you can fit just a little bit more data into a field. And that's really helpful when you're in a field that doesn't include extended comments, or if you don't really want to use an extended comment because you just got like one more word to add. What it'll do is it'll shrink all the text down, even if it's a multi-line field, so that you can fit that extra little bit of verbiage that you need to put into a field. And when you print it out, it really doesn't look like it doesn't fit. Like it looks normal when you print it out. So that's one of my favorite features. Also, I want to go over responses real quick. I'm going to select all this and delete it out. So right now I have a response in there called Waynesville. What I can do is I can come over here to manage responses, or I can type something in. And all of your old keyboard shortcuts, they work in Appraise-It Pro as well. So I can type in Asheville, manage responses. Right now, here's Asheville, and I could just hit save, and then Asheville will be added. But you notice it doesn't have an F key assigned to it. If I want to assign an F key, I go back to manage responses. I've already selected Asheville, and then I can assign that to F4, hit save. Now, most of you who have already been using Appraise-It Classic, when you come in here, you'll already have all of your responses in here, and you can go in and clean them out if you want to. But Waynesville and Asheville are the two that I have in there now. Now, when I come into the city field, I can hit F3, and that'll put Waynesville in there, and then I can tab out, just like you could in Appraise-It Classic, or I can simply double click over here and it'll put it in. Or, and this is my favorite part, I can type in AS and notice that it automatically fills in Asheville for me. And that's kind of like how it would be in a web browser. It's called auto text completion. So as I type something in there, WA, I can do Waynesville and just hit tab to get out of the field. Okay. And so those are kind of a couple of the really cool things. Oh, one more thing that I want to show you that I think is really cool is the way that photos work. Now you can use Image Manager or Comp Manager just like you could in Appraise-It Classic, and they're the same. So I'm not going to bother showing you them here. They look and operate just the same as they did in Classic, so you won't have to relearn that. But if you do come to a photo page, and I'm just going to go to Sales Comps 1 through 3, you can double click here, and you could find a photo, and I don't have any right now, but you could find a photo, and then you could just go ahead and pop it in. I think I do have a photo here under pictures, and then let's see, here's my background. So I could select that, and then you can add the photo in that way. The other thing you can do, which is really cool, is I'm going to click, and I'm going to do where's clear. Yes. Here's the cool thing you could not do in Appraise-It Classic. Let me pull up over here my other screen, pictures. Here we go. So there's pictures, and then what I can do is I can drag that photo in, and I can just drag and drop it in. I don't actually have to like browse anywhere separately. So that's really great if you plug in your camera and your camera pops up all of your images. You can just simply drag and drop them directly into Appraise-It if you want to go that route. Now the final thing, because we're up on 30 minutes here, and then I want to start doing some questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat there, which is the little comic window. Or if you're watching this later after we've posted it on YouTube, you can just simply email training@sfrep.com and we'll take your questions. One other thing I want to show you that I love is occasionally, everything's not perfect, occasionally, as most of you know, web maps, our street maps will go down, or flood mapping will go down, or something will happen and you know, we're all working from home now, permanently. It's looking like we're going to start doing. So maybe I don't know, there's a big internet outage in Western North Carolina, and we can't, because all of our phones are via the internet. So maybe we can't do phones right then and there. Tech support doesn't work, or maybe there was a hurricane in Baton Rouge and sales can't take phone calls. So what we'll do is down here at the bottom, there is a little services button area, and this will tell you what our current server status is, or services status. It's a mouthful. Right now you see it's green, that means everything is working. If I click on that, it'll say all services online. If, let's say, we were really backed up in tech support, that might turn yellow and let you know that there is a backlog in tech support, that we're busier than normal, and there may be a little bit extra wait. Maybe our chat goes down, that'll go yellow. If something is not working, let's say that the stream maps are completely out, then that will turn red, and you'll see it, and it's real time. So if you're working and you see that it turns red, you can go down there, click on it, and it'll say we're experiencing a problem with our street maps. So that'll save you a phone call having to call us and wonder what's going on. And if you double click this, what it'll do, let me pull the tab over, it will open up our status.sfrep.com page, and this will give you even more information, and you can even go back and see what the server statuses were recently. So if you're like, hey, were the maps out yesterday when I was having a problem, you can go back and look at that. Even if you're using Classic, you can do that right now just by going to status.sfrep.com. But of course, we're also still going to post stuff on our Facebook page and on Twitter whenever we're having a problem as well. Okay, that's about all I've got for you guys. Let me see if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. I'll be happy to answer them. And it can be about Appraise-It Pro, it can be about SFREP in general, whatever you got. I'll be happy, you know, if you want recommendations on a new computer, I can do that for you as well. Lori asks, please tell me that every time I upgrade the software, my photos do not resize back to the default size. Don't necessarily know what you mean by that, but no, I mean, whenever, any kind of issue that you may have been having personally or whatever not personally, but if you individually were having in Appraise-It Classic or whatever, Appraise-It Pro, Appraise-It Classic do not share code at all. They are completely different. It's a complete rewrite. So there won't be any, if there was a bug that you were dealing with in Classic, it won't be in Pro, okay? As far as bugs concerned, there are very few in Pro that I've found, and they've all been fixed. We're in version 2.0 now. So it is a rock solid product. I've had it open for a week and never had any problems with it. And the other thing is that and I think I mentioned this earlier, but I want to reiterate this, you can have Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro on your computer at the same time. You can even start a report in Classic and move it over to Pro. Or now, in version 2.0 of Pro, you can even start something in Pro and then move it back over to Classic with the Appraise-It Classic export, which is in the home section right here. You can do Appraise-It Classic export. Now, there are certain things that Pro supports that Classic doesn't, so those things will be stripped out of the report, but it will get your information from Pro back to Classic. Lori said, I customized my photo size so that they always went back upon upgrades. Yeah, I mean, that should not be a problem at all, Lori. Thomas asks, is there a cloud storage option like a la mode software where my appraisers can search from their offices so we can all see each other's reports? Here's the thing. A la mode or anybody else that is offering a cloud solution is not managing that cloud solution on their own. They're using either like Amazon Web Services or they're integrating with Dropbox or something like that. We do have plans on the books because we've already been contacted by Dropbox to integrate with Dropbox, and that's what we'll support. But you can use Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever you want to use, Mega Drive, whatever. You can set that up right now. And the reason that we don't have a cloud solution is because that's not our expertise. Like our expertise is in making the software, not necessarily in cloud storage solutions. So we allow it so that it will work with things like OneDrive. I use mine with OneDrive, but things like OneDrive, Google Drive, or Dropbox, you can do that right now. And then they will, we let them handle that because there's like security concerns and back-end bandwidth and all this other stuff that's not our area of expertise. So we let them handle that. So we make sure that our software works well with the existing cloud storage solutions out there. And if you contact our tech support, they can let you know how that's all set up and what to put where. Frank asks, how long will it be before this is posted to YouTube? Usually same day. So I should have it posted here within maybe an hour or two. I usually put them up then. I have to do a little bit of editing and then I post it to YouTube. I already have one of these webinars up on YouTube if you want to go watch that one from like a week or two ago. I think it was before Thanksgiving. And then the one I did 2 days ago on specifically on report and making templates. I didn't show you how to make a template. Real quick. Once you have everything the way that you want it in a report, if you open up a report and you move some stuff around, added some data maybe, and you want to save that as a template, all you got to do is come up here to save as template, and you see those are the two that I already had in there. So I can call this one, I'm just going to call it Friday because that's what today is. Call it Friday. I'm going to close this report. No, I don't want to save it. Come back here to new, and now you see that Friday is in there. And actually, because I had a photo in there, the photo is going to be in there too. So that's how you do a template. But I have a whole webinar that I did 2 days ago on creating reports and templates in Appraise-It Pro. So you can go back and watch that on there as well. Our YouTube account, for those of you who don't know, is youtube.com/SFREP, real simple. Let's see, Jen asks, why would you want to go back from Classic and Pro, advantages, disadvantages? You're not going to want to, but it's there if you have to. One of our philosophies is we always want there to be a workaround. We always want there to be a plan B for you. So if something were to happen and there's just some kind of bug or something that you could not work around, we give you the option to go back to Classic. If you're in Classic and you want to try out Pro, we give you the option to open. Pro is completely backwards compatible with Classic. So it's not something we really anticipate people using all that often, but we designed it so that there's always an escape route or there's always a plan B. If something goes wrong, you can always move it back to Classic. Let's see. What mobile option do you have to use an iPad or Android? Currently, we have Inspect-A-Lot, and that is an iPad only app. They are working on an Android version of it as well. We also have other mobile options that may be released in the future, but I don't want to go too far into that because I don't have enough information to give you yet, but there are other mobile things coming soon. But right now we have Inspect-A-Lot, which is a great mobile app that allows you to use sketches, and it allows you to collect data and photographs in the field. And if you have like one of the iPad Pros that have a really nice camera on them, you can even take your photos with the camera and you can hold it up and be that guy or that lady who's taking photos with the iPad. But you can take those photos with the iPad, or if you have iCloud, you can take the photos on your iPhone, which has a much better camera, and then they will be available for you to add into Inspect-A-Lot. And then with there's an Inspect-A-Lot Connect, which is over here under Services, Inspect-A-Lot Connect, that will then go to the cloud, grab the information that you collected in the field, and bring it and put it into Appraise-It Pro. And it works in Appraise-It Classic as well. Let's see, Jen, Pro has been great. No need to go backwards. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate that. I really like it too. I've been using it so much now because that's kind of our new product. For those of you who may be, this is a good time to bring this up. For those of you who may be a little bit concerned that Classic's going to go away sometime soon, we do not have any concrete plans at the moment to get rid of Classic, but understand that new forms that come out, new features that come out, they will only be added to Pro, not the Classic. The only time we're going to put something in Classic or do something Classic if we find some disastrous bug that we have to fix. I don't anticipate that happening because we would know about it by now. So Classic's development is pretty much done, but we're still going to support it for a time. Really, what will probably end up killing off Classic is, as most of you know, the next version of UAD is going to be coming out eventually. I don't have a timeline on that, probably 2021, maybe 2022. I know we're part of the working group with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for designing those forms. So we every month meet with Fannie and Freddie, and we give them our input, input that we get from our appraisers, things like that. And we are representing your interests with Fannie Mae. But those are going to be more dynamic forms. And I can't go into it too much because I'm under a non-disclosure agreement, but those are going to be dynamic forms, and therefore they will not be able to be added to Appraise-It Classic. So when those come out, that'll kind of be the sunset of Appraise-It Classic. So just keep that in mind. Real property analysis Gulf Coast. I don't have a name, but that's who was asking. At one time, there was a method you could convert a report done on one type of software and convert it to another, i.e. SFREP to ACI or vice versa. You cannot do that, but you kind of can't do that. All software providers, they encrypt their report files. And so even if we could, we can't go to take an ACI file or an a la mode file and decrypt it and then import it, because that would violate the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA, that we've heard about in reference to other things like music and things like that. So we can't break that encryption and then bring it over. There's some legal gray area and questioning on that, but essentially we're not going to do it and we can't do it, and vice versa. However, what you can do is if you come over here to open and you go to open, you can select open MISMO document, or you can simply double click on a MISMO document and it'll open up in Appraise-It Pro as well. And you can open up a MISMO document created with any other software provider. That'll bring in the core pieces of the report. It won't bring in the photos and it won't bring in a lot of the addenda, but anything that was supported by MISMO XML will be brought in, and you can then edit it. So you can kind of bring things over from another software provider, but you can't bring the full report. Honestly, I think, and from what I've heard of people who have moved over to us from, say, a la mode or ACI or somebody else, they really only need to be going back to their old stuff for a couple of months. And then once they've done enough appraisals in Appraise-It Pro, they kind of leave that behind. So what I recommend a lot of people do is just maintain your subscription or whatever to the old software for a couple of months. And then once you've moved over and gotten everything squared away, you can then cancel it out. That's the remainder of the questions. So if you have any other questions after this webinar, like I said, just feel free. Training at sfrep.com. That's training at sfrep.com, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you. And if you need tech support, tech at sfrep.com. And remember, you can call our sales office, 800-523-0872, and they can get you set up with Appraise-It Pro. And then if you need to, they can get you over with our tech support who can help you in getting it all installed and set up. Everything will be moved over for you automatically, and you can hit the ground running and go ahead and start using Appraise-It Pro, or at least start playing with it and start learning it today and move over at your own pace. Because remember, Appraise-It Pro and Appraise-It Classic can reside at the same time on the same computer. I want to thank everybody for showing up. I thank you for your time, your 46 minutes worth of time. I know it's valuable, and I know it's a Friday. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I hope the weather cooperates and you can get out there and enjoy the last little bit of warm weather wherever you are. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful time. Thanks.